Art answers life in the latest performance series presented by the Boston Symphony Orchestra called Voices of Loss, Reckoning, and Hope. Centered around the theme of civil rights, the festival is sounding off on issues of racism, inequality, and incarceration, including through a concerto inspired by a run-in composer and pianist Anthony Davis had with Police 4 decades ago. That was a clip from You Have the Right to Remain Silent, performed by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra and clarinetist Anthony McGill, who will make his BSO debut this weekend. It's an event conducted by Thomas Wilkins and curated by Anthony Davis. All three join me now to discuss. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to start, describe what this festival is. I gave the encapsulation, but on a deeper level, where are you taking audiences?
Well, I think we're taking audiences to a place of acknowledgement, first of all, a historical acknowledgement for sure, but also a place of determination to not repeat the mistakes of the past to the extent that it's possible in modern day world. And we're doing that by ingesting with as much inspiration, musical inspiration, vocal inspiration, soloist inspiration, as much as possible, so that we can leave this 3-concert period better than we entered it.
Well, Anthony Davis, this is a piece, as I just described, that's very personal to you for your own experience. This piece, You Have the Right to Remain Silent. Tell me about your desire to write something about that encounter with police.
Well, it's so typical and obviously and unfortunately typical of black experience. We have the expression "driving while black." So it's like that we use. I mean, I think Anthony's had a similar experience too, and but also for me, when I was asked to write the concerto, I was really interested in kind of the relationship of the orchestra to the soloist, and I thought it might be interesting to look at it from the perspective of the clarinetist being interrogated by the orchestra. And
you say interrogated because you write this piece with really 4 stages, 4 themes.
Yeah, if it's in 4 movements, and the first movement is the interrogation, and in the sense of thinking about what the relationship of the soloist to the orchestra, traditionally, and how it works in concerto form. But then since I'm an opera composer, I sometimes think in more dramatic terms. So I thought about it in terms of the spotlight on the clarinetist, and they're under interrogation. Then it deals in I was thinking about the emotional state of that, being the vulnerability of it. And it has those moments of lyricism and vulnerability, and just moments of defiance, moments of all the emotions that come out of a situation like that.
And a Pulitzer Prize-winning composer, I might add. Anthony McGill, then you come into it as the clarinetist. How do you come into this, knowing that you have this very particular role, considering these themes?
Yeah, I think of it kind of like I'm the protagonist in an opera, one of Anthony's operas. A lot of his compositions that are just absolutely magnificent are his operas that he's written. So I come at it as thinking of it like a small operetta with a serious theme to it the whole way. So that's kind of I kind of want to act out the different characters of the different movements as I feel them in real time.
You just perfectly led into something I've been dying to ask you all day, which is learning about your role. I thought about performance, the way an actor might take the stage. So I'm wondering if something different is happening in you for a performance like this, in a piece like this. What's happening? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I think in rehearsal you're kind of setting up and thinking about technical aspects of the music making and getting the ensemble together and all of this stuff. But I know, and from experience before with this piece, that something else takes over, and that is the real raw emotion of this character, of what's happening, putting myself in the space of someone who may be being interrogated, someone who has lost a loved one, whether that's to prison or elsewhere, and someone who is experiencing those feelings of being incarcerated. So I try to put myself in those places, in those spaces, to be able to use that to inform how I make music on the stage with this particular work.
And your fellow Anthony mentioned that you had a similar experience?
Yeah, it was my first job in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Symphony, and I was over in Kentucky late one night with friends in the back, and I was sitting there in the car, and the person walked over, and he basically said something like, while using the term "boy" to refer to me, said, "You're not in California, boy," and because I didn't yield the right of way to him. And so he made us sit there for 45 minutes to an hour waiting to see what happened. This was late at night after we'd left a restaurant. And it was that experience and the way he spoke to me, I knew exactly what he was talking about. And if I hadn't had people in the car with me, it would have turned out quite a bit differently, I imagine. But of course, it was my first job, my first car that I've owned. And so I didn't have any kind of record to speak of. And fortunately, I had classical music on the radio as well. So that saved me in lots of different ways from a bad encounter.
I'm wondering if you felt a responsibility to write this piece.
Yeah, I do. In general, in music, I feel that. I mean, I feel that part of the role of being a composer, and it's particularly this time, is to speak to our time, speak to the conditions we face, and then also to so that people can experience a kind of empathy, and a kind of identification with what's going on. So so in music we really explore the emotional realm rather than necessarily the rational realm, and that's always exciting to me. To put people in a place to have an emotional experience.
Well, Thomas, I wanted to ask you that. It's one of the great joys of my job is to see how different artists reflect our times and how they get people to think, to have an emotional response, to provoke. People don't always necessarily think about music or classical music as having the same effect, but how does it?
It does. I've often said that composers the very best composers are not trying to demonstrate how smart they are or how they've mastered music theory. To Anthony's point, they are inviting us to a place of empathy. They're just using notes and chords and chord progressions and rhythms to do that with. But for the most part, a lot of them are saying empathy is better than sympathy. Sympathy is, I'm pulling for you. Empathy is, I'm going to get in your shoes and walk alongside you and be with you through this journey. That's the gift of great music, and that's why we still listen to Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Brahms and Haydn. They knew what they were doing, and it surely was not intended to show us just how smart they were.
One of the great things I read about this is that there's a level of improvisation here. So it's new, it's fresh every night. What's happening on stage?
Yeah, well, it's really great to be able to play and create alongside Anthony Davis. Basically, for the first time in my professional career, I've been able to, he will write out a few lines of music and then say, go for it for the next few minutes. And it gives me the ability to be able to reach inside and find out what I want to say, how I want to interact with the orchestra that is interrogating me or playing alongside me, and with the notes that they're playing. And so it gives me an opportunity to really explore some of those internal emotions as I'm playing in real time. And that gives the sense of being in real life. What would you do in that moment when someone's saying something to you? How would I respond? And with using notes, I get to be able to participate in this work of art. So every night, every performance that we've ever done that we'll do it this week, is going to be special and unique and different. And that gives it an extra bit of excitement and thrill when performing the piece.
You often don't consider your works finished, so you'll go back. They can live, just like improvisation. They change. Why is that?
Well, I think because I think I fall in love with certain things that are in the music, and I wanted to continue it, and I feel I can develop it further. Like in this piece, some of it ended up in Central Park 5, my opera, because also the theme of it, I write Remain Silent. I was and writing about the 5 teenagers in New York. There was a kind of common ground in that, and I see that sometimes my themes from different pieces travel from one piece to the next, and as if I think of the themes as characters. They're characters and that recur and they come back, so they kind of speak to each other, and that's exciting to me.
And I began and we'll end with you in the few seconds we have left. I'm wondering, a lot of people say that artists are there to create, but not necessarily have a political voice or an activist voice. I'm thinking of a play that I saw recently that addressed that very issue. But obviously you're not seeing this with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. You're very mindful of what you're doing here.
Yeah, and I don't think it has anything to do with politics. I think it has to do with what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, and what's decent and what's unfair. And if you go after those larger human issues, that allows other people to be able to have some buy-in, because right is right. We all know what that is, and I think that's the thing that we want to emphasize more than anything. There's nothing political about him being stopped by a police officer or him being stopped by a police officer. That's just injustice. And so the question is, if we say that mercy is feeding them, then finding out why they're hungry in the first place is what justice is.
Well, thank you all. It has been such a pleasure, and thank you for the work that you've done.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Boston Symphony Orchestra's Voices of Loss, Reckoning, and Hope is running now through March 18th. Tickets are available at bso.org/events.